Hey, what's going on, y'all? Eric Mulder here with Covert Conversations. Thanks for joining me again today. In this video, like I posted on Facebook, I will be going over the recent body camera footage that has been released in regard to the George Floyd incident. Now, there's a whole lot of information here and a bunch of different topics I want to address. So I'm going to go through the video, pause it, and then comment where I think it might be helpful or relevant. The video stops basically where the first video, where we saw the unfortunate death of George Floyd take place. It pretty much stops right up till that point. And I'll share my personal opinions as we proceed.
See your hands.
Damn, man.
Stay in the car. Let me see your other hand.
I'm sorry.
Let me see your other hand.
Please, but
both hands.
do nothing.
Put your hands up right now. Let me see your other.
Now, I've heard a lot of people complaining about the officer pulling out his gun on George Floyd here. And typically when people make that claim or they feel as if it was unjustified, the first thing I heard when I was paying attention this time was that 4 times the officer gave verbal commands to see his hands. 4 times. It wasn't once and then he pulled his gun. 4 times. And there are specific reasons that officers request that or desire to see a suspect's hands. Why? Because to put it mildly or put it simply, the hands kill. I made a few videos throughout the course of my channel. I've basically been addressing the issue of deadly force and officer safety and why officers have such a great need to control the hands. And here are 2 very good examples of that. Now, this is a video from a few years ago where a couple of Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department officers attempt to take an individual into custody. He is being non-compliant, and pay attention to his hands.
Doing nothing. Yes, you are. You're not listening to our command. You want to get tased? You want to get tased? I don't want to get tased. Okay, then come out. Hey, watch out. Let me see the car, man. Dude. Really? Come on, dude. Like, why are you gonna do that? Just relax, dude. Dude, why are you gonna do that? Just relax. Just come outside. Come on, man. Like, step to the side or anything. Okay. Then we get this. Subject to freezing.
In case you missed it, let me back up. See right there in his right hand. Split second. That's all it takes. We are constantly reminded in policing that the hands kill. You need to be in control, or at the very least be able to see both hands of the suspect in order to know that you're safe and that the public's safe. Now, this is a video that I posted a few years ago it's back in 2018, pretty much when I first got my channel up and running, of a LAPD contact where these 2 officers came in contact with a suspect that was on probation. So they started asking him a few questions. They were familiar with him. And let's just watch this entire event unfold.
We good?
Good? Haven't seen you in a while. Still on probation?
911, ma'am.
What?
911, not discharged.
You just discharged?
No, 911.
Oh, 911.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna have you step out of the vehicle.
Okay.
You don't have anything on you, right? You're good.
Oh, no.
Now I want to show this video from the perspective of the cover officer, which really gives you a very detailed view of his hands to see how quickly things jump off.
How you doing?
Doing good?
Good? Haven't seen you in a while. Still on probation?
9 more months, ma'am.
What?
9 more months, not discharged.
You just discharged?
No, 9 more months,
Oh, 9 more months.
and I'll be done.
Okay, I'm gonna have you step out of the vehicle.
Okay?
You don't have anything on you, right?
Those two videos should pretty much kill any argument or debate as to, for anyone who questions why the officer took his gun out and gave him commands to show him his hands. These incidents, these situations could escalate in less than a second. So, just for anyone who was questioning their motives.
Other hand. Put your hand up there. Put your hand up there. Hands on the wheel. Keep your hands on the wheel. Who else is in the car? Put your foot back in.
God dang, man. Man, I got shot the same way as I was before.
Okay, well, when I say let me see your hands, you put your hands up. You got them?
Man, dang, man.
Put your hands on top of your head.
Okay, so he said that he's been shot before. I'm not too sure about the history of that, but he seems to be compliant here. Kind of emotional at the same time. I don't know what he knew at the time, whether he was actually guilty of the offense that he was being accused of or not, but we'll let it proceed.
Hands on top of your head. Hands on top of your head.
His emotion could be understandable
Step out of the vehicle and step away from me.
if
all
what
right?
he's saying is true.
Step out and face away. Step out and face away.
Please don't shoot me. Please, man.
I'm not going to shoot you. Step out and face away.
I'm gonna get out of here, man. Please don't shoot me, man. Please, man. I just lost my mom, man.
Step out and face away. Step out and face away.
Please don't shoot me, Mr. Officer. Please don't shoot me, man.
Step out and face away.
Can you not shoot me, man?
I'm not shooting you. Step out and face away.
Okay. Please, man. Please. I didn't know, man.
Get out of the car.
I didn't know, Mr. Officer. I didn't know.
Now, multiple times they asked him to step out of the car. He's emotional. The officer's communicating with him. And then after a while, if you have a lawful reason to be there to make contact with the suspect, asking them to comply, after a while it has to stop. And then you have to make them comply. So, lawfully speaking, I don't see any issue. I have no issue with the officer's actions up until this point.
Right now.
And if you heard that, I'm going to back up a little bit too, because you heard someone else make a statement. Let's back up real quick. You heard someone else tell him to stop resisting. So that kind of throws a monkey wrench into this entire narrative. Not the narrative as in necessarily, well, we'll get there, as in Chauvin's impact or his role in ultimately the death of George Floyd. But people were making the claim that George Floyd wasn't resisting at all when the incident took place. But clearly you see he's not fully compliant. And then you hear someone else say, stop resisting.
Right now.
Stop moving. Put your hands behind your back then. I'm not going to do nothing. Face in the door. Yes, you are. Stand up.
Against the wall. Yes.
What I do?
We're figuring out what's going on. Drop the bag.
Figure out what's going on.
Adam,
What's the problem?
Said something to him. It ain't us.
we was getting a ride,
I
sir.
just got my phone fixed. It's my ex man.
Adam knows me.
That's my ex.
Are you good?
He keep telling me, get in my car.
That's it, man.
Well, they
You
make
can
sure
ask
Floyd
Mr.
has
ID?
my phone, sir. Floyd is there.
You can ask Mr. Adam about me.
Do you have ID?
I'm on 38 to the house.
320 or 44.
38 to the house.
About me, sir. I just came to buy a tablet, and when I bought a tablet, it didn't
Oh
work.
my God. He didn't even do nothing.
Here you go, sir.
Do you have ID?
No, I don't. My
You got
name's
anything with
Shawan
your name on
Renee
it?
Hill. No.
Sir.
Okay.
I just came over to get my phone to see I don't have a purse or nothing.
Mr. Adam
And my
knows
daughter
me,
is on her
man.
way to get me.
What's the deal?
I don't
Adam
know.
knows me, sir.
That's my.
Now, I believe the reason why the officer made contact with them in the first place was because they were interacting. I don't know if they were in the vehicle, because there was someone else in the vehicle, it appears, with George Floyd. But it seems as if they were getting too close, because I'm assuming that this lady was the one who had commented. So it's a simple officer safety response or protocol is that in order to make control or take control of an encounter, if you see bystanders getting too close, you gotta push them back. You gotta command them to step back. And here they had Floyd under control. He was cuffed. After they got him under control, after they got him handcuffed, this officer was able to break away and separate these individuals, make sure they weren't getting too close, and just ask some routine questions.
Hey, I don't know.
Why is he getting all squirrely and not showing his hands and just being all weird like that?
Because he's been shot before. He don't
Well, I
wanna-
get that, but still, when officers say get out of the car,
going
is he drunk? Is he on something?
Oh, he got a thing going on. I'm telling you
What
about
does
the
that mean?
police. We have problems all the time when they come, especially when that man spit that gun like that. It's been one.
What's your first name?
So she said he has a thing going on, like mental issues or something along those lines. I don't know if that was ever verified or confirmed, but then at the same time she spoke about the gun being in his face. I could see how that could cause someone to trip out, honestly. But on the other hand, compliance would have eliminated the need for that. A lot of people don't like to hear that, but that's just a reality.
What is it?
He's a good guy. George Floyd, she said. Ouchie,
What
man.
are you on something right now?
No, nothing. You acting erratic.
Let's go.
Yeah, man.
Let's go.
Yeah, man. Yes. Yes.
Now, one officer asked him, or both of them asked him, if he was on something. Now, based on my experience, I would firmly believe that he was under the influence of something, which is ultimately what turned out to be the case. The autopsy demonstrated that he was under the influence, toxic levels of fentanyl and methamphetamines, if I'm not mistaken. If I recall, levels that could have killed him, that could have played a role in his death, but he wasn't acting in a way or in a fashion that a normal person acts. Not at all.
Just open earlier.
Let's go.
All right, let me come on down now. This is a little better now.
Keep walking.
Okay, now, do me one favor, man.
No, when we get to the car, let's get to the car, man. Come on.
Hey, man. Oh, man. God, don't leave me, man. Please, man, leave me, man.
Here.
Just,
I want to watch that car too, so get him in.
Stand up, stop falling down. Stay on your feet and face the car door.
You get a seat on him?
Please, get out the door, man. I don't want to talk to you,
No.
man. Please, let me talk to you,
Man,
please.
you ain't listening to nothing we're saying, so we're not going to listen to nothing you're saying.
Can you watch that car? Just make sure no one goes in it.
I hear you, but you are going to face the door right now.
Listen up. Stop.
I'll do anything. I'll do anything y'all tell me to do, man. I'm not a resistor, man. I'm not. You can ask him. He know me here.
Check this side.
God, man, I won't do nothing like that, y'all. Why is it going on like this? Look at my wrist, Mr. Officer. I'm not that kind of guy.
The other side.
Mr. Officer, I'm not that kind of guy.
Stop.
You please. I'm not that kind of guy, Mr. Officer. Please.
Space away.
Please, man. Don't leave me by myself, man. Please. I'm just claustrophobic. That's it.
Well, you're still going in the car.
Anything sharp on you? I won't do nothing to hurt y'all, Mr. Officer. No, sir. Why? Nothing. I don't have nothing. Why y'all doing me like that, Mr. Officer? Please, crack it through for me and stuff, man. I am claustrophobic for real, Mr. Officer.
You got him?
Could you please crack it for me, please?
Yes, I'm
Remember my
cracking.
name. Stay with me, man.
I will.
Please stay with me, man. Thank you. God, man. I didn't know I was going to happen, man. Please, man. I just want my hand, please. I don't want none of y'all, man. Nothing.
You got it?
Inside any pocket real quick on your shirt? I'm listening. And I understand that people do stuff.
Alright, he's good. This gun's
Just prior to putting a suspect, after you take a suspect into custody, and obviously after you've developed probable cause to enact an arrest or conduct an arrest, you have what is known as a search incident to arrest, where you check the individual's pockets, make sure that they don't have any drugs, any weapons, anything whatsoever that could be harmful to them, to you, another inmate, or some of the jail staff. It's a typical search for contraband, weapons, things like that.
Okay.
Grab a seat.
Okay.
I'll roll the windows down, okay?
Please don't take a seat. I'm going in, Mr. Officer. I'm going in. No, you're not. I gotta go in. Take a seat.
Grab a seat, man.
Why y'all don't believe me, Mr. Officer?
Take a seat.
I'm not that kind of guy. I'm not that kind of guy, man.
Take a seat.
Y'all, I'm gonna die in here.
Take a seat.
I'm gonna die, man.
You need to take a seat right now.
And I just had COVID, man. I don't want to go back to that.
Okay, I'll roll the windows
No.
down. Hey, listen.
Dang, man.
Listen.
I'm not that kind of guy.
I'll roll the windows down as
Please,
you pull your
man.
legs in, alright? I'll
Y'all
put the
just
air on.
stop. Look at that. Look at that.
Not even listening.
Look at it. Look at it.
We can fix it, but not while you're standing out here.
Okay, man. God, y'all do me bad, man. Man, I don't want to try to win. I don't want to try to win. I don't want to win. I'm claustrophobic. I'm claustrophobic. I got anxiety. I don't want to do nothing to them.
I'll roll the window down.
Man, I'm scared. When I start breathing, it's gonna go off on me, man.
Pull your legs in.
Okay. Let me count to three. And I'm going in. Please. I'm not trying to win. I get on the ground, anything. I can't stand this, man. He know it.
An officer has to take the suspect into custody. There's just no way around it. There is no mechanism where a person who makes a claim of being claustrophobic, where there's a way that you have an open air means of transport. You have to get the person into the vehicle to take them to jail. And so I really don't know what to make of his claustrophobia, whether it's a legitimate claim or not. But repeatedly, you're hearing the officers attempting to communicate with them to comply, to get compliance out of them. I don't hear them going off or being disrespectful or talking to him, calling him out of his name, or saying some type of ethnic slur, which I will be getting into here shortly. But it looks like a normal arrest up until this point, where the person may be exhibiting some unusual behavior.
You get in this car, we can talk.
I'm claustrophobic.
I'm hearing you, but you're not working with me.
God, I'm claustrophobic, man.
Come on over here. I'm going to pull you in.
Get in the car.
In the front.
No, you're not getting in the
I'm
car.
claustrophobic.
Get in the car.
Okay, man. Okay. I'm not a bad guy, man.
Get in the car.
I'm not a bad guy. Man. Please, officer. Please.
Take a seat.
Please, man. Please. No.
Take a seat.
I can't choke. I can't breathe, officer. Please.
Fine.
My wrist, man. Please. I can't take this, man. I can't. I'm gonna lay on the ground.
Get in the squad.
Now, I'm not sure whether the officer pulled him out of the vehicle or whether he squirmed his way out of the vehicle. And he said he wanted to lay on the ground. It's just a very weird dynamic. One body camera isn't enough to give you a full breakdown of everything that took place, but it's very odd. His behavior was extremely unusual. To me, there's no question that he was under the influence. I would have known that just by his actions. Yeah, people are talking to him, man. Like, you can hear the citizens telling him, like, you gotta calm down, man. Like, he's just being irate, just over the top. He's talking about he wants to lay on the ground. He's already saying he can't breathe. But I just want to give my personal perspective on this incident here. Very unusual. But the point, my primary point is this. The main narrative that we've been told was that this was racially motivated. I would like to ask anyone, show me clearly where these officers demonstrated that they were mistreating him based upon his ethnicity. Someone point that out to me, where it's clear, because this is what we've been hearing throughout this entire response, reaction, nationwide, worldwide response to the George Floyd killing, George Floyd death, was that these officers treated him the way they did because he was a black man. I do not see that anywhere. And once again, I challenge anyone watching this video to clearly identify that to me. The second point is, I wonder why the Attorney General, Keith Ellison, if I'm not mistaken, decided to withhold this information until now, until all the repercussions and until after this massive push for defunding the police and police reform. Now, for me, it personally doesn't change my mind when it comes to the tactic of putting your knee on someone's neck. How ridiculous of a tactic that is. It doesn't change my mind in that area. But what it does do is that it demonstrates that there were other factors that contributed to George Floyd's death. His physical and mental state had a major impact. I don't know who in the world, I still stand by my initial video which said, whoever came up with the idea that placing your knee on a suspect who's under the influence or dealing with some type of psychological trauma, that was a legitimate tactic, that completely boggles my mind. Especially if you're not in a situation where they are posing a serious threat to themselves or to you or to others. Especially in a situation like that. I don't get it. But stepping back from that and just examining it from the perspective of this was racially motivated, or prejudice, bigotry was the reason why Chauvin and those other officers did what they did. Now, of course, their position, the way they kept him down, I have a hard time believing that played zero role. And that they should have been smarter than that, the way they dealt with it. That's just my perspective. But I honestly believe that this information was withheld in an election cycle with only half of the information for a purpose. And that purpose was to incite and to inflame and to be used as fuel to push for radical and deadly policies that have only resulted, as we have seen all across the nation, that have only resulted in more death to black folks or people in general, more death, more destruction. And Keith Ellison and BLM and Antifa and all these people associated with it, with these policies, knew exactly what they were doing. Those are my beliefs, 100%. So once again, I still stand pretty firmly on my initial response, but I see that there were a lot of factors which ultimately led to George Floyd being placed on the ground. Does this video change your mind at all in any way, shape, or form? If not, why not? If it does, I'd love to hear your reasons also. In the meantime, stay safe, God bless, and make sure you join the conversation.